Welcome back to the Library of Awakening. Today we're exploring a controversial and widely discussed document titled Project Bluebeam, attributed to journalist Serge Monast. In this work, Monast presents a theory about how advanced technologies, media influence, and psychological operations could potentially be used to shape global belief systems and public perception. The document discusses ideas surrounding satellite technology, holographic projections, mass communication systems, and the possibility of large-scale psychological manipulation in the modern world. Whether one views these claims as speculation, warning, or conspiracy theory, the text has sparked curiosity and debate for decades. Here, at the Library of Awakening, our goal is not to tell you what to believe. We simply read and explore historical writings, rare documents, and controversial ideas so that each person can investigate them for themselves. These readings do not necessarily represent our personal views, and we always encourage everyone to continue their own research and critical thinking when studying topics like these. If you enjoy content like this and want to help us grow the Library of Awakening, make sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with others who are interested in exploring hidden or lesser-known texts. Now, let's begin. The infamous NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, Bluebeam project has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. We must remember that the New Age religion is the very foundation for the New World Government, without which religion, the dictatorship of the New World Order, is completely impossible. I'll repeat that. Without a universal belief in the New Age religion, the success of the New World Order will be impossible. That is why the Bluebeam project is so important to them, but has been so well hidden until now. Engineered earthquakes and hoaxed discoveries. The first step in the NASA Bluebeam project concerns the breakdown, re-evaluation of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup, with artificially created earthquakes at certain precise locations on the planet, of supposedly new discoveries which will finally explain to all people the error of all fundamental religious doctrines. The falsification of this information will be used to make all nations believe that their religious doctrines have been misunderstood for centuries and misinterpreted. Psychological preparations for that first step have already been implemented. With the film 2001, A Space Odyssey, the Star Trek series, and Independence Day, all of which deal with invasions from space and the coming together of all nations to repel the invaders. The last films, Jurassic Park, deals with the theories of evolution and claim God's words are lies. Hoaxed discoveries. What is important to understand in the first step is that those earthquakes will hit at different parts of the world where scientific and archaeological teachings have indicated that arcane mysteries have been buried. By those types of earthquakes, it will be possible for scientists to rediscover those arcane mysteries, which will be used to discredit all fundamental religious doctrines. This is the first preparation for the plan for humanity, because what they want to do is destroy the beliefs of all Christians and Muslims on the planet. To do that, they need some false proof from the far past that will prove to all nations that their religions have all been misinterpreted and misunderstood. The big space show in the sky. The second step in the NASA Bluebeam project involves a gigantic space show with 3-dimensional optical holograms and sounds, laser projection of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to predominating regional national religious faith. This new God's voice will be speaking in all languages. In order to understand that, we must study various secret services research done in the last 25 years. The Soviets have perfected an advanced computer, even exported them, and fed them with the minute physio-psychological particulars based on their studies of the anatomy and electromechanical composition of the human body, and the studies of the electrical, chemical, and biological properties of the human brain. These computers were fed, as well, with the languages of all human cultures and their meanings. The dialects of all cultures have been fed into the computers from satellite transmissions. The Soviets began to feed the computers with objective programs like the ones of the new Messiah. It also seems that the Soviets, the New World Order people, have resorted to suicidal methods with the human society by allocating electronic wavelengths for every person and every society and culture to induce suicidal thoughts if the person doesn't comply with the dictates of the New World Order. There are two different aspects of Step 2. The first is the space show. Where does the space show come from? The space show. The holographic images will be used in a simulation of the ending, during which all nations will be shown scenes that will be the fulfillment of that which they desire to verify the prophecies and adversary events. These will be projected from satellites onto the sodium layer, about 60 miles above the Earth. We see tests every once in a while, but they are called UFOs and flying saucers sightings. The result of these deliberately staged events will be to show the world the new Christ, the new Messiah, Maitreya, for the immediate implementation of the New World religion. Enough truth will be foisted upon an unsuspecting world to hook them into the lie. Even the most learned will be deceived. The project has perfected the ability for some device, referred to as tractor, beams by ufologists, to lift up an enormous number of people, as in a rapture, and whisk the entire group into a never-never land. We see tests of this device in the abduction of humans by those mysterious little alien greys who snatch people out of their beds and through windows into waiting motherships. The calculated resistance to the universal religion and the new Messiah and the ensuing holy wars will result in the loss of human life. On a scale never imagined before in all of human history, the Blue Beam Project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of the prophecies of old, as major an event as that which occurred 2,000 years ago. In principle, it will make use of the skies as a movie screen on the sodium layer at about 60 miles, as space-based laser-generating satellites project simultaneous images to the four corners of the planet in every language and dialect according to the region. It deals with the religious aspect of the New World Order and is deception and seduction on a massive scale. Computers will coordinate the satellites, and software already in place will run the sky show. Holographic images are based on nearly identical signals, combining to produce an image or hologram with deep perspective, which is equally applicable to acoustic ELF, VLF, and LF waves and optical phenomena. Specifically, the show will consist of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to the specific national, regional religion. Not a single area will be excluded, with computer animation and sounds appearing to emanate from the very depths of space. Astonished ardent followers of the various creeds will witness their own returned messiahs in convincing lifelike reality. Then the projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, etc. will merge into one after correct explanations of the mysteries and revelations will have been disclosed. This one God will, in fact, be the Antichrist, who will explain that the various scriptures have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, and that the religions of old are responsible for turning brother against brother and nation against nation. Therefore, old religions must be abolished to make way for the New Age, New World religion, representing the one God, Antichrist, they see before them. Naturally, this superbly staged falsification will result in dissolved social and religious disorder on a grand scale. Each nation blaming the other for the deception, setting loose millions of programmed religious fanatics through demonic possession on a scale never witnessed before. In addition, this event will occur at a time of profound, worldwide political anarchy and general tumult created by some worldwide catastrophe. The United Nations, even now, plans to use Beethoven's Song of Joy as the anthem for the introduction for the New Age One World religion. If we put this space show in parallel with the Star Wars program, we get this. combination of electromagnetic radiation and hypnosis, which have also been the subject of intensive research. In 1974, for instance, researcher G.F. Shapitz said of one of the research proposals that, "In this investigation, it will be shown that the spoken words of the hypnotist may also be converted by electromagnetic energy directly and to the subconscious part of the human brain, without employing any mechanical device for receiving or transcoding the message, and without the person exposed to such influence having a chance to control the information input consciously. It may be expected that the rationalized behavior will be considered to have been taken out of their own free will." Anyone investigating so-called channeling phenomena right now would be wise to take this area of research into consideration. It will be noted that those who think of themselves as channelers has escalated rapidly since this type of research was conducted. It is uncanny how similar their messages are, despite which entity they claim to be their source of divine guidance. It would suggest any individual, considering the credibility of channeled information, should be discerning and critically evaluate where the message they are receiving originates, and if the messages are specifically beneficial to the New World Order. The Sydney Morning Newspaper published an item on March 21st, 1983, which announced that the Soviets were invading the human mind. The article having been submitted to the foreign editor by Dr. Nathan Abnuenji, assistant professor in the Faculty of Agriculture in Asia. It is worth quoting the article at length, even though his grammar is a little old. This article relates to the Soviets who created the supercomputer we were discussing earlier, and which is really important because these types of computers can be run through satellites and through space. The computers were fed with all the different languages and their meanings. The dialect of all peoples were fed to the computers with objective programs. But we are no longer talking about the Soviets. We are talking about the United Nations, the minions of the New World Order, who are feeding the computers with the necessary information. The editor of the column in which the article appeared even states that the piece made points too important to ignore. I think it is possible that the persons who have created this mega mind control program could sell the software to an organization and not be aware that the client might use the program and data to enslave all of humankind. Just imagine how far they have advanced since that article was published. Artificial thought and communication. The advancement of techniques propel us toward the third step in the blue beam project that goes along with the telepathic and electronically augmented two-way communication, where ELF, VLF, and LF waves will reach each person from within his or her own mind, convincing each of them that their own God is speaking to them from the very depths of their own soul. Such rays from satellites are fed from the memories of computers that have stored massive data about every human on Earth and their languages. The rays will then interlace with their natural thinking to form what we call diffuse artificial thought. That kind of technology goes into the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, research where the human brain has been compared to a computer. Information is fed in, processed, integrated, and then a response is formulated and acted upon. Mind controllers manipulate information the same way a computer for grammar manipulates information. In January 1991, the University of Arizona hosted a conference entitled the NATO Advanced Research Workshop on Current and Emergent Phenomena and Biomolecular Systems. What does that mean exactly? It means this. We refer to one paper that was delivered at the conference, which stands out for its different attitude towards the development under discussion at that time. It was, in effect, a protest and chilling warning to the attending scientists about the potential abuse of their research findings. Their findings, of course, stated that the United States has already developed communications equipment which can make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk. It can relieve the terminally ill from pain without the use of drugs or surgery. I'm not talking about science fiction. A man might retain the use of all his faculties right up to the moment of his death. This communications equipment depends upon a completely new way of looking at the human brain and neuromuscular systems and radiation pulses at ultra-low frequencies. Some of this equipment is now operational within the Central Intelligence Agency and Federal Bureau of Investigation. It will never be used to make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk, because it is central to the domestic political agenda and foreign policy of George Bush and his puppet masters of the New World Order. Domestically, the new communications equipment is being used to torture and murder persons who match profiles imagined to be able to screen a company given population for terrorists, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations which promote tolerance and peace and development in Central America, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations who oppose the development and deployment of nuclear weapons, and to create a race of slave cult automatons, or what is popularly called the Manchurian candidates. Overseas experimentation is taking place on hostages held by the United States and Canada, Great Britain, Australia, Germany, Finland, and France. Additionally, there has been a long series of bizarre suicides among British computer scientists, all of whom have had some connection to the United States Navy. What is possible to ask before such a psychology of terror is this: would any government, corporation, or psychiatrist will fully promote such horror today? The answer is quite obviously yes. Government agencies and the corporations that work with them toward a new world order are prepared to promote anything that will help them achieve their objective of total social control. As for the question of why, for one thing, if you terrify the public and make them fear for their safety, they will allow you to implement draconian law enforcement practice, disarm them, and keep extensive records on them, and they only have to tell you that it is all to protect you, of course. Secondly, it promotes the decay of the present democratic forms of political systems and leads societies to search for alternative methods of political ideology. Of course, the alternative has already been planned. It is called the New World Order, and it will not have your safety or interests at heart. As George Bush said, "Read my lips." Fear has always been used by powerful elite to control an arcade, subjugate the masses. The old maxim, divide and conquer, is being played out to the limit worldwide to ensure that everyone is frightened for their personal safety and to be suspicious of everyone else. This, too, is mind control. To go further in regard to the new technology, which is at the base of the NASA Bluebeam project, we have to consider this statement by psychologist James V. McConnell, which was published in a 1970s issue of Psychology Today. He said, "The day has come when we can combine sensory deprivation with drug hypnosis and astute manipulation of reward and punishment to gain almost absolute control over an individual's behavior. It should then be possible to achieve a very rapid and highly effective type of positive brainwashing that would allow us to make dramatic changes in a person's behavior and personality." Now, when we talked before about that kind of ray and the telepathic and electronically augmented communication, the kind of rays that are fed from the memories of computers which store massive data about humans, human language and dialects, and we said that the people will be reached from within, making each person to believe that his own God is speaking directly from within his or her own soul. We refer to that kind of technology and that kind of thinking that same psychologist was espousing. That is, we should be trained from birth, that we should all do what society wants us to do, rather than what we want to do for ourselves. That because they have the technology to do it, no one should now be allowed to have their own individual personality. This statement, and these ideas, are important because it is the basic teaching of the United Nations that no one owns his or her own personality, and that same psychologist claims that no one has any say-so about the kind of personality they acquire, and there is no reason to believe you have the right to refuse to acquire a new personality if your old personality is considered antisocial. What is important in this declaration is that the new world order will be set up over the current system, meaning the old way of thinking and behavior and religion will be considered the old and incorrect way of thinking, and that they can change it at one of the eradication camps of the United Nations to make sure that anyone with this antisocial behavior will be disposed of quickly, so that other modified individuals will be able to fulfill the needs and agendas of the new world order without being distracted by the truth. Could this be the greatest mind control project ever? The NASA Blue Beam project is the prime directive for the new world order's absolute control over the populations of the entire Earth. I would suggest you investigate this information carefully before dismissing it as fanatic lunacy. If we go further in the different reports we have presented, we find that the mind control operations and technology include a transmitter that broadcasts at the same frequency as the human nervous system, which transmitter is manufactured by the Loral Electro-Optical System in Pasadena, California. Loral, a major defense contractor, has previously conducted research on directed energy weapons for Lieutenant General Leonard Perez of the U.S. Air Force, who is searching for a weapon that could implant messages into the minds of the enemy while urging his own troops onto superhuman deeds of valor. The device employs electromagnetic radiation of gigahertz frequencies, microwaves, pulsed at extremely low frequencies, ELF. It is used to torture people, both physically and mentally, from a distance. Weapons of this type are thought to have been used against a British woman protesting the presence of American cruise missiles at Greenham Common Air Base during the 1970s. This weapon can be used to induce total sensory deprivation by broadcasting signals into the auditory nerve at such high power that it blocks the ability of the individual to hear themselves think. The process employed by such ELF technology are described in various U.S. Defense Department publications, including one entitled The Electromagnetic Spectrum and Low-Intensity Conflict by Captain Paul E. Tyler, Medical Commandant, U.S. Navy, which is included in a collection entitled Low-Intensity Conflict and Modern Technology Edict by Lieutenant Col. David G. Dean, USAF. The paper was delivered in 1984 and the collection published 1986 by Air University Press, Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama. Another pulse microwave device can deliver audible signals directly to an individual while remaining undetectable to anyone else. The technology is very simple and can be built by using an ordinary police radar gun. The microwave beam generated by the device is modulated at audio frequencies and can broadcast messages directly into the brain. Now, here we come to the NASA Blue Beam project. The broadcasting of subliminal two-way communication and images from the depths of space correspond directly to that kind of technology. In his book, The Body Electric, Nobel Prize nominee Dr. Robert O. Becker describes a series of experiments conducted in the early 1960s by Alan Free, where this phenomena was demonstrated, as well as later experiments conducted in 1973 at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research by Dr. Joseph C. Sharp, who personally underwent tests in which he proved he could hear and understand messages delivered to him in an echo-free isolation chamber via a pulsed microwave audiogram, which is an analogue of the word sound vibration, beamed into his brain. Becker then goes on to state, such a device has obvious application for covert operations, designed to drive a target crazy with unknown voices, or deliver undetectable instructions to a programmed assassin. Now figure out when we hear that voice from the New World Messiah, who would be speaking from space to all of the sane, people of the earth who might give instructions to zealots and religious fanatics. We would see hysteria and social mayhem on a scale never witnessed before on this planet. No police forces in the world, even as a combined front, could deal with the disorder that will follow. A 1978 book entitled Microwave Auditory Effect and Application by James C. Lynn describes how audible voices can be broadcast directly into the brain. This technology could actually allow the blind to see and the deaf to hear. Instead, it has been turned into a weapon to enslave the world. Alan Free also reports that he could speed up, slow down, or stop the hearts of isolated frogs by synchronizing the pulse rate of a microwave beam with the heart itself. According to Dr. Robert Becker, similar results have been obtained using live frogs, which shows that it is technically feasible to produce heart attacks with rays designed to penetrate the human chest. Editor's note: both the author of this report and his colleague died of heart attacks only days apart. I should mention also that Dr. Becker does not participate in such research. It has been demonstrated that focused ultra-high-frequency UHF electromagnetic energy beams can be used to induce considerable agitation and muscular activity, or induce muscular weakness and lethargy. Microwaves can also be used to burn human skin and aid the effect of drugs, bacteria, and poisons, or affect the function of the entire brain. These effects were all revealed at length by the CIA on the 21st of September, 1977, in testimony before the Subcommittee on Health and Scientific Research. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who directed the MK Ultra program at that time, was forced to discuss the scope of the CIA's research to find techniques of activation of the human organism by remote electronic means. So, this is something that exists right now, that has been pursued to its highest degree, that can be used from space to reach any person, any place, on the face of the earth. If we go deeper in that process of mind control over the people, we find that the equipment and technology has been used to influence politics in a much more direct fashion. Michael Dukakis, the Democrat candidate running against George Bush in the 1988 election, was targeted with microwave technology in order to impede his public speaking performance. Once the public opinion polls showed he posed a serious threat to Bush's election prospects. He also claims that the equipment was used against Kitty Dukakis and drove her to the brink of suicide. In the Disneyland world of US politics, a presidential candidate with problems such as these would obviously lose their race to the White House. In the December 1980 edition of the US Army Journal called The Military Review, a column by Lieutenant Cole John B. Alexander, entitled The New Mental Battlefield, Beam Me Up, Spock, provides further insight into the technical capabilities at the disposal of the comptroller. He writes, several examples will demonstrate areas in which progress have been made. The transference of energy from one organism to another, the ability to heal or cause disease to be transmitted over a distance, thus inducing illness or death from no apparent cause. Telepathic behavior modification, which includes the ability to induce hypnotic states up to a distance of 1,000 kilometers, have been reported. The use of telepathic hypnosis also holds great potential. This capability could allow agents to be deeply planted with no conscious knowledge of their programming. In movie terms, the Manchurian Candidate lives and does not even require a telephone call. Other mind-to-mind induction techniques are being considered. If perfected, this capability could allow the direct transference of thought via telepathy from one mind or group of minds to a select target audience. The unique factor is that the recipient will not be aware that thought has been implanted from an external source. He or she will believe the thoughts are original. This is exactly what we were talking about. The third step in the NASA Bluebeam project is called the Telepathic Electronic Two-Way Communication, LT. Cole John Alexander's article continues. If it is possible to feed artificial thought into the multigenic field via satellite, the mind control of the entire planet is now possible. An individual's only resistance would be to constantly question the motivation behind their thoughts, and not act upon thoughts which they consider to be outside their own ideological, religious, and moral boundaries. Once again, it is wise to consider how television, advertising, modern education, and various types of social pressure are used to manipulate those Boundaries. It has been reported by Lieutenant Col Alexander, who said, in the summary of his military review article, the information on those kinds of technologies presented here would be considered by some to be ridiculous, since it does not conform to their view of reality. But some people still believe the world is flat. Now, this means a lot, because if people do not believe this kind of technology is possible, or that it is science fiction, those people put themselves in great jeopardy, because on the night when those 1,000 stars will shine from space, during the night when the new Messiah will be presented to the world, they will not be prepared, and will have no time to prepare to save themselves against that kind of technology. They don't believe, and they won't take time to prepare. This is exactly what happens to people who are convinced by Satan into believing that he doesn't exist, so they have no defense against him. JAR. Universal supernatural manifestations via electronics. The fourth step concerns the universal supernatural manifestation with electronic means. It contains 3 different orientations. 1 is to make mankind believe that an alien off-world invasion is about to occur at every major city on Earth in order to provoke each major nation to use its nuclear weapons in order to strike back. This way, the United Nations Court will require that all those nations which launched nuclear weapons to disarm when the invasion is shown to have been false. And how will the United Nations know that the invasion was false? They will have staged it, of course. The second is to make the Christians believe that the rapture is going to occur with the supposed divine intervention of an alien off-world civilization coming to rescue Earthlings from a savage and merciless demon. Its goal will be to dispose of all significant opposition to the implementation of the New World Order in one major stroke, actually within hours of the beginning of the Sky Show. The third orientation in the fourth step is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. The waves used at that time will allow supernatural forces to travel through optical fibers, coaxial cables, electrical, and phone lines in order to penetrate to everyone at once. Through major appliances, embedded chips will already be in place. The goal of this deals with global satanic ghosts projected all around the world in order to push all populations to the edge of hysteria and madness, to drown them into a wave of suicide, murder, and permanent psychological disorders. After the Night of the 1,000 Stars, worldwide populations will be ready for the new Messiah to re-establish order and peace at any cost, even at the cost of abdication of freedom. Phasing out cash and independence. The techniques used in the fourth step is exactly the same used in the past in the USSR to force the people to accept communism. The same technique will be used by the United Nations to implement the New World Religion, the New World Order. A lot of people ask when this is going to happen and how they will accomplish the visions of the Night of 1,000 Stars, and the events that will point to the days when it will begin. According to the many reports we have received, we believe it will begin with some kind of worldwide economic disaster. Not a complete crash, but enough to allow them to introduce some kind of in-between currency before they introduce their electronic cash to replace all paper or plastic money. The in-between currency will be used to force anyone with savings to spend or turn in their cash, because they understand that people who have money and are not dependent upon them might be the very ones who will mount an insurrection against them. If everyone is broke, no one can fund a war of any kind. Paper currency will cease to exist. This is one of the first signs. But to implement the worldwide electronic money system, everyone in the world who might have money in the future will have to have a way to transfer money electronically. Before that time, everyone will have spent, before the year 2000, all of their cash, reserves, and assets. Everyone has to be 100% dependent upon the council for their existence. To prevent any kind of independence, the New World Order has already implanted microchips in wild animals, birds, fish, etc. Why? They want to make certain that the people who will not accept the New World Order will not be able to hunt or fish anywhere in the world. If they try, they will be tracked and traced by satellites, then hunted down and imprisoned or killed. The New World Order is already changing the laws of all nations to make everyone dependent upon a single food and vitamin supply. They are changing laws about religion and psychiatric disorders in order to identify anyone who is potentially threatening to the NWO. Those who are found defective will be sent to eradication camps, where their organs will be taken and sold to the highest bidders. Those who are not killed outright will be used as slave labor or used in medical experiments. The goal of a dictatorship is to control everyone, everywhere, on the planet, ruthlessly, and without exception. That's why the new technology being introduced everywhere is a technology for the control of the people. The technology of the 1940s and 1950s was used to help the people have an easier and more productive life. The new technology is designed and built to track down and control people everywhere. This technology is being manufactured for a specific purpose, and to refuse to see and recognize that purpose, which is to enslave the entire populations of the world, is to deny the emergence of the Antichrist and the establishment of the New World Order, religion, and government. If you cannot see, if you cannot learn, if you cannot understand, then you and your family and friends will succumb to the fires of the crematoria that have been built in every state and every major city on Earth, built to deal with you. No one is safe in a totalitarian police state. Note, Serge Monast and another journalist, both of whom were researching Project Bluebeam, died of heart attacks within weeks of each other, although neither had a history of heart disease. Serge was in Canada. The other Canadian journalist was visiting Ireland. Prior to his death, the Canadian government abducted Serge's daughter in an attempt to dissuade him from pursuing his research into Project Bluebeam. His daughter was never returned. Pseudo-heart attacks are one of the alleged methods of death induced by Project Bluebeam. The International Free Press Network is not a religious group. Neither is it a political organization, but an independent, worldwide investigation press. Agency in the field of politics, economics, medical, and military. We specialize in investigating and publishing special reports and audio tapes to expose the underworld of the United Nations conspiracy to implement a New World Order. Our task is to make the people realize that the agenda of the New World Order is not a dream or some wild paranoid theory. It is a real, ongoing, satanic project. For what? 1. To abolish all Christian traditional religions in order to replace them with a one-world religion based on the cult of man. 2. To abolish all national identity and national pride in order to establish a world identity and a world pride. 3. To abolish the family as known today in order to replace them with individuals all working for the glory of the new one-world government. 4. To destroy all individual artistic and scientific creativity to implement a one-world government, one mindset. And that kind of declaration of war from the United Nations is for the implementation of a universal, obligatory membership to the United Nations, a strengthening of the UN by a multi-military and multi-police force, a worldwide justice department through the UN with an international tribunal, a worldwide new trade agreement for all nations, the end of Cold War and local wars as they are today, and the obligation for peace by scrapping all national and state constitutions. Also, a new world religion and a new culture for all men. If we really wish to understand the NASA Bluebeam project, we have to return to the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Remember that song? That song said, "When the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligned with Mars, then peace will guide our planet and love will steer the stars." This related with the year 1982 to be, at that time, the opening for the conspiracy of the Age of Aquarius, just before the implementation of the New World Order, supposed to begin sometime in 1983. I have to say that the Bluebeam project was set up for the year 1983. It has been delayed. We don't know exactly why, but since 318 years before the publication of this report, they have really improved themselves with new technology and innovations in space hardware, and software in which they are involved right now to make their systems possible. So, the goals of the New Age movement, under which the United Nations operates right now, are the implementation of a new world, Messiah. The tools of the New World Order are 1. An international army. 2. An international police force. 3. A World Bank for the economy. 4. A world government under the United Nations. 5. A World Conservatory Bank for wilderness preservation. Around the world. That means all green movements will be melded into the new international bank or disappear altogether. 6. A world religion where all church doctrines will be destroyed at the roots, to be replaced by the new world religion of the age of Aquarius. 7. The world 7 races classification for all human slaves who will fulfill predetermined work tasks, whether they agree with it or not. 8. The world concentration headquarters at the United Nations for those who will not accept the new system. 9. The world agriculture and food supply control, which will control food and vitamin supplies around the world. The New World Order will be an in-between government system for USSR, Great Britain, and all its commonwealths, and the United States with its melting pot population. This is, at the end, a new spiritual and political world order that will replace the old ones under which we live right now. What are the New World Order plans? They plan on the destruction of all people who believe in the Bible or worship Jesus Christ, and the complete disappearance of Christianity. To achieve this plan, the New World Order is changing national laws to assure that Christian beliefs and symbols, like the cross, for instance, will become outlawed and unlawful. Religious holidays and ceremonies will be replaced with New Age festivities around the world. The elimination and complete destruction of all secret societies and secret brotherhoods, lodges, and sanctuaries, all of which they view as the most serious threats to their survival after the implementation of the one world religion and one world government. The New World Order also plans the abolition of all national currencies and the transfer of commerce to electronic cash through the superhighway. The thinkers and the basic doctrine of the New Age conspiracies books are Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, who wrote ISIS Unveiled and The Secret Doctrine, Alice A. Bailey, who wrote The Race and the Initiation and Externalization of the Hierarchy, Initiation, Human, and Savior, The Reappearance of the Christ. Their Christ is the new Messiah, the destiny of the nation, in which are plans for the disposition of the nation-states, the unfinished autobiography, discipleship, and the New Age. Esoteric psychology. These books are very important for New Age thinkers, who are exactly the ones who are conspiring to implement the New World Order. Also, the writing of Nicola Roerich, who wrote Maitreya, that's their new Messiah, Shambhala, The Resplendent, and the Agni Yoga series. David Spangler, who wrote Revelation, The Birth of a New Age, considered as the Bible inside the New Age movement. Reflections on the Christ, which is related to the Luciferian initiation. Links with Space, which maintains that off-world aliens are supposed to come to save Earthlings from themselves. Relationship and Identity, The Love of Manifestation, New Age Rifts, and Toward a Planetary Vision, which is directly related to the visions of the New World Order, as they plan it to be now. What those people also plan. And I repeat, this is not a dream, and is not paranoid thinking. This is real. They plan that in order to accept the New World Order, all people must first accept the New Age religion. To enter into the New World religion, the Christian will have to abdicate their own beliefs. So, as they said, the initiation will be on a worldwide basis inside the newly organized New Christian Church, which will be a reorganized and strictly controlled Masonic temple a cult organization based on a Luciferian initiation. What we have to understand here is that no one will be able to maintain their old beliefs and, at the same time, enter into the New Age religion. It will be impossible. For those who will not accept the New World Order, who will reject it, the New World Order people have already built re-education concentration camps, and, for those camps, they have established what they call the rainbow classifications of the New World Order prisoners. The rainbow is considered as the bridge leading to the satanic empire of the New World Order. We already know, for instance, that everyone will have to take an oath to Lucifer in order to cross that bridge into the New Age. All who resist that initiation will be sent to detention facilities where they will be separated into different categories, known as the rainbow classification of the New World Order prisoners. 1. Classification of Christian children, as planned, is to be as human sacrifices, where, within the Black Mass ceremonies, they will be forced to participate in any kind of sexual orgies or be kept as sexual slaves. 2. Classification of prisoners to be used in medical experiments, where drugs and new technologies will be tested on humans. 3. Classification of healthy prisoners for the International Organ Donation Center, where vital organs will be removed one by one while they are kept alive by mechanical devices. 4. Classification of all healthy underground workers. The New World Order is basically a worldwide dictatorship based upon the Luciferian religion, a dictatorship with the illusion of democracy. In order to maintain the baster illusion of democracy, camps, and slave labor will be hidden underground in massive colonies that are being built as we write this report. 5. Classification of uncertain prisoners in the International Re-Education Center, political and religious. Prisoners will be re-educated by whatever means are required so that they may repent on international television programs and glorify the virtues of the one world government for the benefit of all humanity. 6. Classification of the International Execution Center. Clear enough? 7. Classification 7. We are still waiting on the details of the 7th classification, and we are awaiting verification of the colors to be assigned to these classifications of prisoners. But this is the basic agenda of those who have planned the new paradise world of the future. You must understand that when I decided to release, about 6 months ago, some of their plans and information concerning their most important project, which is the NASA Blue Beam project, I wasn't certain if I would survive my stand against the New World Order's plans to put down on their knees all of the world's cultures and religions. But now, following my own Christian conscience, my real and deep love for all my unknown brothers and sisters in America and throughout the world, I freely accept to give my life, if it has to be the case for the truth, for Jesus Christ, by releasing, for the first time, the 4 major steps of the Satanic Blue Beam project. I ask everyone who reads the following descriptions not to be paralyzed by their natural fears, but to spread to everyone the contents of this special report, and to gather together in order to commune, to think, and to organize ways to survive the New World Order, government showdown, and power-taking, because what we have to see, understand, is that the New World government will not be something permanent, immortal. This is not the case. But what we have to do right now is learn how to organize to survive such satanic plans. More on Project Blue Beam. Jesus is Coming Kill, The Enemies of God, the 1st of February, 1999, When Seeing and Hearing Isn't Believing, by William M. Arkin. Special to WashingtonPost.com, Monday, February 1. 1999. Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government. So, begins a statement being delivered by Gen. Carl W. Steiner, former Commander-in-Chief, U.S. Special Operations Command. At least the voice sounds amazingly like him, but it is not Steiner. It is the result of voice morphing technology. developed at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico. By taking just a 10-minute digital recording of Steiner's voice, scientist George Papkun is able, in near real time, to clone speech patterns, develop an accurate facsimile. Steiner was so impressed, he asked for a copy of the tape. Steiner was hardly the first or last victim to be spoofed by Papkun's team members. To refine their method, they took various high-quality recordings of generals and experimented with creating fake statements. One of the most memorable is Colin Powell stating, "I am being treated well by my captors." They chose to have him say something he would never otherwise have said, chuckled one of Papkun's colleagues. A box of chocolates is like war. Most Americans were introduced to the tricks of the digital age in the movie Forrest Gump, when the character played by Tom Hanks appeared to shake hands with President Kennedy. For Hollywood, it is special effects. For covert operators in the US military and intelligence agencies, it is a weapon of the future, a weapon to be used against anyone who is considered enemy of the state. Once you can take any kind of information and reduce it into ones and zeros, you can do some pretty interesting things, says Daniel T. Kuehl, chairman of the Information Operations Department of the National Defense University in Washington, the military's school for information warfare. Digital morphing, voice, video, and photo, has come of age, available for use in psychological operations. PSYOPs, as the military calls it, seek to exploit human vulnerabilities in enemy governments, militaries, and populations to pursue national and battlefield objectives. To some, PSYOPs is a backwater military discipline of leaflet dropping and radio propaganda. To a growing group of information war technologists, it is the nexus of fantasy and reality. Being able to manufacture convincing audio or video, they say, might be the difference in a successful military operation or coup. Your head on Lee Harvey Oswald's body, you are guilty, and a jury of your peers will convict you for them. Allah, on the holodeck Pentagon planners, started to discuss digital morphing after Iraq's invasion of Kuwait in 1990. Covert operators kicked around the idea of creating a computer-faked videotape of Saddam Hussein crying or showing other such manly weaknesses, or in some sexually compromising situation. The nascent plan was for the tapes to be flooded into Iraq and the Arab world. No, they did it. During Desert Storm, CDSWCC, The Voice of God, the tape. War never proceeded, killed, participants say, by bureaucratic fights over jurisdiction, skepticism over the technology, and concerns raised by Arab coalition partners. Buzz, it proceeded, tested, perfected. But the strategic PSYOP scheming didn't die. What if the US projected a holographic image of Allah floating over Baghdad, urging the Iraqi people and army to rise up against Saddam? A senior Air Force officer asked in 1990. According to a military physicist, given the task of looking into the hologram idea, the feasibility had been established of projecting large, three-dimensional objects that appeared to float in the air, but doing so over the skies of Iraq. To project such a hologram over Baghdad on the order of several hundred feet, they calculated, would take a mirror more than a mile square in space, as well as huge projectors and power sources. And besides, investigators came back. What does Allah look like? The Gulf War hologram story might be dismissed, were it not the case that WashingtonPost.com has learned that a super-secret program was established in 1994 to pursue the very technology for PSYOPs application. The holographic projector is described in a classified Air Force document as a system to project information power from space for special operations, deception missions. War is like a box of chocolates. Voice morphing, fake video, holographic projection. They sound more like Mission Impossible and Star Trek gimmicks than weapons. Yet for each, there are corresponding and growing research efforts as the technologies improve and offensive information warfare expands, whereas Early voice morphing required cutting and pasting speech to put letters or words together to make a composite. PapCun software, developed at Los Alamos, can far more accurately replicate the way one actually speaks. Eliminated are the robotic intonations. The irony is that after PapCun finished his speech cloning research, there were no takers in the military. Luckily for him, Hollywood is interested. The promise of creating a virtual Clark Gable is mightier than the sword. Video and photo manipulation has already raised profound questions of authenticity for the journalistic world. With audio joining the mix, it is not only journalists, but also privacy, advocates, and the conspiracy-minded who will no doubt ponder the worrisome mischief that lurks in the not-too-distant future. We already know that seeing isn't necessarily believing, says Dan Kuehl. Now, I guess, hearing isn't either. William M. Arkin, author of The U.S. Military Online, is a leading expert on national security and the Internet. He lectures and writes on nuclear weapons, military matters, and information warfare. An Army intelligence analyst from 1974 to 1978, Arkin currently consults for Washington Post, Newsweek Interactive, MSNBC, and the Natural Resources Defense Council. Get ready. Emails rearranged to seem like a death or bomb threat. Your telephone conversations rearranged after you use words to describe a movie you saw, and over time, with Echelon recording your conversations. They will have your vocabulary of words in your voice, and now, when they want to prosecute you of a crime they commit, suddenly they can have audio recordings and video footage of you being in some location, and the jury hear you say what your enemies want them to hear. Guilty. Off with his head. Death. A jury of your peers will believe and convict you. We are coming full in this civilization, where all deception will become the way of life, all lies will become truth, and truth will no longer exist. It will be total illusion, now overt based on evil. Introducing Project Bluebeam Patrol. In cooperation with TRW Space and Technology, NASA, and other world space agencies, the Bilderberg Group has developed a series of 3 stationary satellites with advanced laser technology that enable them to project holographic images onto the Earth's surface from outer space. This amazing technology allows Project Bluebeam Patrol to create holographic decoys of police officers that will patrol our city streets, along with and among our own finest. The criminals will not be able to tell which are the real officers and which are the holograms. What is the Bluebeam project? It involves 2 things: a technologically simulated second coming and the re-emergence of the new Montauk type projects that have the ability to take up a whole bunch of people, as in a rapture type of situation, whisk the whole bunch into Never Never Land. Ironically, portions of the holographic projections have the potential for changing the planet into oneness with God. Unfortunately, this operates on the premise that man shall somehow become God in human form and control other men and dictate all actions and thoughts. The calculated resistance to the new religion, the new world order, and the new Messiah will entail human loss on a massive scale in the ensuing holy wars. The Bluebeam Project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of the prophecies of old, as major an event as that which took place 2,000 years ago. In principle, it will make use of the sky as a holographic projection screen for space-based laser-generating satellites. Star Wars. These projectors will project simultaneous images to the 4 corners of the planet, in every language by region. It deals with the religious aspect of the New World Order. The system has already been tested. Holographic projections of the Christ image have already been seen in some remote desert areas. These have only been reported in tabloid papers, so they are instantly rendered moot. They can also project images of aliens, monsters, angels, you name it. Computers will coordinate the satellites, and software will run the show and tell. Holography is based on very nearly identical signals combining to produce image, or hologram, with depth. Perception. This is equally applicable to acoustic ELF, VLF, LF, waves, as it is optical phenomena. Specifically, the show will consist of laser projections of multiple holographic images to different parts of the planet, each receiving different images according to the predominating regional religious faith. Not a single area will be excluded, with computer animation and sound effects appearing to come from the depths of space, astonished. Followers of the various creeds will witness their own returned Messiah in spectacularly convincing, lifelike realness. The various images of Christ, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, etc. will merge into one after correct explanation of the mysteries, prophecies, and revelations are disclosed. This one God will, in fact, function as the Antichrist, who will explain that the various scriptures have been misunderstood, that the religious of old are responsible for turning brother against brother, nation against nation, that the religions of the world must be abolished to make way for the golden age, new age, of the one world religion, representing the one God they see before them. Naturally, this superbly staged, full-scale production will result in social and religious disorder on a massive scale. Wonder what the television transmitters of religious networks will be doing on that day. But before all this, they have to go through 4 different steps in order to get to Project Bluebeam. 1. The first step concerns the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with staging earthquakes at certain precise locations around the planet where supposed new discoveries will finally explain for them that the meaning of the basic doctrines of all the world's major religions are wrong. This falsification will be used to make the population believe that all religious doctrine has been misunderstood and misinterpreted. The falsification started with the film 2001, A Space Odyssey, the TV series Star Trek, the Independence Day film, E.T., all of which deal with space invasion and protection. Jurassic Park was to push the theory of evolution. 2. The second step deals with the gigantic space show. 3D optical holograms and sounds. Laser projections of multiple holographic images in different parts of the world, each receiving a different image, according to its predetermined, original, national, religious faith. This new God image will talk in all languages. As an example, the Soviets have manufactured the advanced computers and have programmed them with the minute. Psychological particles based upon their studies of the anatomy and biology of the human body, as well as their studies on the anatomy, chemistry, and electricity of the human brain. These computers have also been fed with the different languages of the world. 3. The third step deals with the telepathic, electronic, two-way communications, where ELF, extra low frequency, VLF, low frequency waves, will reach the people of the earth through the insides of their brains, making each person believe that his own God is speaking to him from within his own soul. Such rays, from satellites, are fed from the memory of computers that store much data about the human being and his languages. These rays will then interlace and interweave with the natural thinking processes to form what we call the artificial talk. 4. The fourth step involves universal, supernatural manifestations using electronic means. This step contains 3 different orientations. The first one is to make mankind believe that an alien invasion is about to occur upon every major city on the earth. This is to push each major nation into using its nuclear capability to strike back. In this manner, it would put each of these nations in a state of full disarmament before the United Nations after the false attack. The second is to make the Christian believe that a major rapture is occurring with a simple, played, divine intervention of an alleged good alien force coming to save the good people from a brutal, satanic attack. Its goal is to get rid of all significant opposition to the New World Order. The third orientation is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. The waves, frequencies, used at that time will allow supernatural forces through fiber optics cable, coaxial cable, electric, and telephone lines in order to penetrate all electronic equipment and appliances that will by then all have a special microchip installed. The goal of this step deals with the materialization of satanic ghosts, specters, and poltergeists all across the globe in order to push all populations to the edge of a wave of suicide, killing, and permanent psychological disorder. After that night of the 1,000 stars, humanity is believed to be ready for them, to enter in a new Messiah to re-establish peace everywhere at any cost, even at the cost of freedom. Notice from William Kern. The report above was pirated from Serge Monast, who was killed while researching Project Bluebeam. Any copyright of this material belongs to Serge Monast or his family, not Cornell University. See Bluebeam Part 1, David Esser, a military soldier who actually released secrets from the NSA. It is believed, last reported as he is worried for his life because of releasing it, he has disappeared from my email list. But then again, I never really was able to contact him to begin with. He contacted me once. He released subliminal, implanted, posthypnotic suggestions and scripts using acoustically delivered and phonetically accelerated posthypnotic commands without somnambulistic preparation in the subject for intelligence and counterintelligence applications by the United States National Security Agency. I think he disappeared, like Ross Adey, and I think that the writer of the article below, Timothy Thomas, may have too. But who knows? Foreign Military Studies Office. Warning: the views expressed in FMSO publications and reports are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of the Department of the Army, Department of Defense, or the U.S. government. The Mind Has No Firewall. Mr. Timothy L. Thomas, Foreign Military Studies Office, Fort Leavenworth, KS. This article first appeared in the spring 1998 issue of Parameters. It is completely clear that the state which is first to create such weapons will achieve incomparable superiority. Major 1 Chernishev, Russian Army. 1. The human body, much like a computer, contains myriad data processors. They include, but are not limited to, the chemical, electrical activity of the brain, heart, and peripheral nervous system, the signals sent from the cortex region of the brain to other parts of our body, the tiny hair cells in the inner ear that process auditory signals, and the light-sensitive retina and cornea of the eye that process visual activity. 2. We are on the threshold of an era in which these data processors of the human body may be manipulated or debilitated. Examples of unplanned attacks on the body's data processing capability are well documented. Strobe lights have been known to cause epileptic seizures. Not long ago in Japan, children watching television cartoons were subjected to pulsating lights that caused seizures in some and made others very sick. Defending friendly and targeting adversary data processing capabilities of the body appears to be an area of weakness in the US approach to information warfare theory, a theory oriented heavily towards systems data processing and designed to attain information dominance on the battlefield. Also, it would appear from information in the open, unclassified press, this US shortcoming may be a serious one, since the capabilities to alter the data processing systems of the body already exist. A recent edition of US News and World Report highlighted several of these wonder weapons, acoustics, microwaves, lasers, and noted that scientists are searching the electromagnetic and sonic spectrums for wavelengths that can affect human behavior. 3. A recent Russian military article offered a slightly different slant to the problem, declaring that humanity stands on the brink of a psychotropic war with the mind and body as the focus. That article discussed Russian and international attempts to control the psychophysical condition of man and his decision-making processes by the use of VHF generators, noiseless cassettes, and other technologies. An entirely new arsenal of weapons, based on devices designed to introduce subliminal messages or to alter the body's psychological and data processing capabilities, might be used to incapacitate individuals. These weapons aim to control or alter the psyche, or to attack the various sensory and data processing systems of the human organism. In both cases, the goal is to confuse or destroy the signals that normally keep the body in equilibrium. This article examines energy-based weapons, psychotropic weapons, and other developments designed to alter the ability of the human body to process stimuli. One consequence of this assessment is that the way we commonly use the term information warfare falls short when the individual soldier, not his equipment, becomes the target of attack. Information warfare theory and the data processing element of humans. In the United States, the common conception of information warfare focuses primarily on the capabilities of hardware systems, such as computers, satellites, and military equipment, which process data in its various forms. According to Department of Defense Directive S. 3600, 1 of 9 December 1996, information warfare is defined as an information operation conducted during time of crisis or conflict to achieve or promote specific objectives over a specific adversary or adversaries. An information operation is defined in the same directive as actions taken to affect adversary information and information systems while defending one's own information and information systems. These information systems lie at the heart of the modernization effort of the US Armed Forces and other countries, and manifest themselves as hardware, software, communications capabilities, and highly trained individuals. Recently, the US Army conducted a mock battle that tested these systems under simulated combat conditions. US Army Field Manual 10151, Operational Terms and Graphics, released 30 September 1997, defines information warfare as actions taken to achieve information superiority, affecting a hostile's information-based processes, and information systems, while defending one's own information processes, and information systems. The same manual defines information operations as a continuous military operation within the military information environment that enables, enhances, and protects friendly forces' ability to collect, process, and act on information to achieve an advantage across the full range of military operations. Information operations include interacting with the global information environment and exploiting or denying an adversary's information and decision capabilities. 4. This system's approach to the study of information warfare emphasizes the use of data, referred to as information, to penetrate an adversary's physical defenses that protect data, information, in order to obtain operational or strategic advantage. It has tended to ignore the role of the human body as an information or data processor in this quest for dominance, except in those cases where an individual's logic or rational thought may be upset via disinformation or deception. As a consequence, little attention is directed toward protecting the mind and body with a firewall, as we have done with hardware systems, nor have any techniques for doing so been prescribed. Yet the body is capable not only of being deceived, manipulated, or misinformed, but also shut down or destroyed, just as any other data processing system. The data the body receives from external sources, such as electromagnetic, vortex, or acoustic energy waves, or creates through its own electrical or chemical stimuli, can be manipulated or changed, just as the data, information, in any hardware system can be altered. The only body-related information warfare element considered by the United States is psychological operations, PSYOP, in joint publication 3-13. 1. For example, PSYOP is listed as one of the elements of command and control warfare. The publication notes that the ultimate target of information warfare is the information-dependent process, whether human or automated. Command and control warfare, C2WA, is an application of information warfare in military operations. C2W is the integrated use of PSYOP, military deception, operations, security, electronic warfare, and physical destruction. 5. One source defines information as a non-accidental signal used as an input to a computer or communication system. 6. The human body is a complex communication system, constantly receiving non-accidental and accidental signal inputs, both external and internal. If the ultimate target of information warfare is the information-dependent process, whether human or automated, then the definition in the joint publication implies that human data processing of internal and external signals can clearly be considered an aspect of information warfare. Foreign researchers have noted the link between humans as data processors and the conduct of information warfare. While some study only the PSYOP link, others go beyond it. As an example of the former, one recent Russian article described offensive information warfare as designed to use the internet channels for the purpose of organizing PSYOP, as well as for early political warning of threats to American interests. End quote. In 7, the author's assertion was based on the fact that all mass media, especially TV programming, JAR, are used for PSYOP. And today, this must include the internet. The author asserted that the Pentagon wanted to use the internet to reinforce psychological influences during special operations conducted outside of US borders, to enlist sympathizers who would accomplish many of the tasks previously entrusted to special units of the US Armed Forces. Others, however, look beyond simple PSYOP ties to consider other aspects of the body's data processing capability. One of the principal open-source researchers on the relationship of information warfare to the body's data processing capability is Russian Dr. Viktor Sontsev of the Bauman Technical Institute in Moscow. Sontsev is a young, well-intentioned researcher striving to point out to the world the potential dangers of the computer-operator interface. Supported by a network of institutes and academies, Sontsev has produced some interesting concepts. 8. He insists that man must be viewed as an open system, instead of simply as an organism or closed system. As an open system, man communicates with his environment through information flows and communications media. One's physical environment, whether through electromagnetic, gravitational, acoustic, or other effects, can cause a change in the psychophysiological condition of an organism. In Sontsev's opinion, change of this sort could directly affect the mental state and consciousness of a computer operator. This would not be electronic war or information warfare in the traditional sense, but rather in a non-traditional and non-US sense. It might encompass, for example, a computer modified to become a weapon by using its energy output to emit acoustics that debilitate the operator. It also might encompass, as indicated below, futuristic weapons aimed against man's open system. Sontsev also examined the problem of information noise, which creates a dense shield between a person and external reality. This noise may manifest itself in the form of signals, messages, images, or other items of information. The main target of this noise would be the consciousness of a person or a group of people. Behavior modification could be one objective of information noise. Another could be to upset an individual's mental capacity to such an extent as to prevent reaction to any stimulus. Sontsev concludes that all levels of a person's psyche, subconscious, conscious, and superconscious, are potential targets for destabilization. According to Sontsev, one computer virus capable of affecting a person's psyche is Russian virus 666. It manifests itself in every 25th frame of a visual display, where it produces a combination of colors that allegedly put computer operators into a trance. The subconscious perception of the new pattern eventually results in arrhythmia of the heart. Other Russian computer specialists, not just Sontsev, talk openly about this 25th frame effect and its ability to subtly manage a computer user's perceptions. The purpose of this technique is to inject a thought into the viewer's subconscious. It may remind some of the Subliminal advertising controversy. In the United States, in the late 1950s, US views on wonder weapons. Altering the data processing ability of the body. What technologies have been examined by the United States that possess the potential to disrupt the data processing capabilities of the human organism? The 7 July 1997 issue of U.S. News and World Report described several of them designed, among other things, to vibrate the insides of humans, stun or nauseate them, put them to sleep, heat them up, or knock them down with a shockwave. 9. The technologies include dazzling lasers that can force the pupils to close, acoustic or sonic frequencies that cause the hair cells in the inner ear to vibrate and cause motion sickness, vertigo, and nausea, or frequencies that resonate the internal organs causing pain and spasms, and shock waves with the potential to knock down humans or airplanes, and which can be mixed with pepper spray or chemicals. 10. With modification, these technological applications can have many uses. Acoustic weapons, for example, could be adapted for use as acoustic rifles or as acoustic fields that, once established, might protect facilities, assist in hostage rescues, control riots, or clear paths for convoys. These waves, which can penetrate buildings, offer a host of opportunities for military and law enforcement officials. Microwave weapons, by stimulating the peripheral nervous system, can heat up the body, induce epileptic-like seizures, or cause cardiac arrest. Low-frequency radiation affects the electrical activity of the brain and can cause flu-like symptoms and nausea. Other projects sought to induce or prevent sleep, or to affect the signal from the motor cortex portion of the brain, overriding voluntary muscle movements. The latter are referred to as pulse wave weapons, and the Russian government has reportedly bought over 100,000 copies of the Black Widow version of them. 11. However, this view of wonder weapons was contested by someone who should understand them. Brigadier General Larry Dodgen, Deputy Assistant to the Secretary of Defense for Policy and Missions, wrote a letter to the editor about the numerous inaccuracies in the US News and World Report article that misrepresent the Department of Defense's views. 12. Dodgen's primary complaint seemed to have been that the magazine misrepresented the use of these technologies and their value to the armed forces. He also underscored the US intent to work within the scope of any international treaty concerning their application, as well as plans to abandon, or at least redesign, any weapon for which countermeasures are known. One is left with the feeling, however, that research in this area is intense. A concern not mentioned by Dodgen is that other countries or non-state actors may not be bound by the same constraints. It is hard to imagine someone with a greater desire than terrorists to get their hands on these technologies. Psychoterrorism could be the next buzzword. Russian views on psychotropic war. The term psychoterrorism was coined by Russian writer N. Anisimov of the Moscow Anti-Psychotronic Center. According to Anisimov, psychotropic weapons are those that act to take away a part of the information which is stored in a man's brain. It is sent to a computer, which reworks it to the level needed for those who need to control the man, and the modified information is then reinserted into the brain. These weapons are used against the mind to induce hallucinations, sickness, mutations in human cells, zombification, or even death. Included in the arsenal are VHF generators, X-rays, ultrasound, and radio waves. Russian Army Major I Chernyshev, writing in the military journal Orienteer in February 1997, asserted that psi weapons are under development all over the globe. Specific types of weapons, noted by Chernyshev, not all of which have prototypes, were a psychotropic generator, which produces a power foo, electromagnetic emanation, capable of being sent through telephone lines, TV, radio networks, supply pipes, and incandescent lamps, an autonomous generator, a device that operates in the 10 to 150 Hz band, which at the 10-20 Hz band forms an infrasonic oscillation that is destructive to all living creatures. A nervous system generator, designed to paralyze the central nervous systems of insects, which could have the same applicability to humans. Ultrasound emanations, which one institute claims to have developed. Devices using ultrasound emanations are supposedly capable of carrying out bloodless internal operations without leaving a mark on the device's skin. They can also, according to Chernyshев, be used to kill noiseless cassettes. Chernyshев claims that the Japanese have developed the ability to place infra-low frequency voice patterns over music, patterns that are detected by the subconscious. Russians claim to be using similar bombardments with computer programming to treat alcoholism or smoking. The 25th frame effect, alluded to above, a technique wherein each 25th frame of a movie reel or film footage contains a message that is picked up by the subconscious. This technique, if it works, could possibly be used to curb smoking and alcoholism, but it has wider, more sinister applications if used on a TV audience or a computer operator. Psychotropics, defined as medical preparations used to induce a trance, euphoria, or depression, referred to as slow-acting minds. They could be slipped into the food of a politician or into the water supply of an entire city. Symptoms include headaches, noises, voices or commands in the brain, dizziness, pain in the abdominal cavities, cardiac arrhythmia, or even the destruction of the cardiovascular system. There is confirmation from US researchers that this type of study is going on. Dr. Janet Morris, co-author of The Warrior's Edge, reportedly went to the Moscow Institute of Psychocorrelations in 1991. There she was shown a technique pioneered by the Russian Department of Psychocorrection at Moscow Medical Academy, in which researchers electronically analyze the human mind in order to influence it. They input subliminal command messages using keywords transmitted in white noise or music. Using an infrasound, very low-frequency transmission, the acoustic psychocorrection message is transmitted via bone conduction. In summary, Chernyshев noted that some of the militarily significant aspects of the psi weaponry deserve closer research, including the following non-traditional methods for disrupting the psyche of an individual. ESP research. Determining the properties and condition of objects without ever making contact with them and reading people's thoughts. Clairvoyance research. Observing objects that are located just beyond the world of the visible. Used for intelligence purposes. Telepathy research. Transmitting thoughts over a stereo distance. Used for covert operations telekinesis research. Actions involving the manipulation of physical objects, using thought power, causing them to move or break apart, used against command and control systems, or to disrupt the functioning of weapons of mass destruction. Psychokinesis research, interfering with the thoughts of individuals on either the strategic or tactical level. While many US scientists undoubtedly question this research, it receives strong support in Moscow. The point to underscore is that individuals in Russia, and other countries as well, believe these means can be used to attack or steal from the data processing unit of the human body. Solntsev's research, mentioned above, differs slightly from that of Chernyshев. For example, Solntsev is more interested in hardware capabilities, specifically the study of the information energy source associated with the computer operator interface. He stresses that if these energy sources can be captured and integrated into the modern computer, the result will be a network worth more than a simple sum of its components. Other researchers are studying high-frequency generators, those designed to stun the psyche with high-frequency waves, such as electromagnetic, acoustic, and gravitational. The manipulation or reconstruction of someone's thinking through planned measures, such as reflexive control processes, the use of psychotronics, parapsychology, bioenergy, biofields, and psychoenergy. 14. And unspecified, special operations, or anti-ESP training. The last item is of particular interest. According to a Russian TV broadcast, the strategic rocket forces have begun anti-ESP training to ensure that no outside force can take over command and control functions of the force. That is, they are trying to construct a firewall around the heads of the operators. Conclusions. At the end of July, 1,000 997. Planners for Joint Warrior Interoperability Demonstration 97. Focused on technologies that enhance real-time, collaborative planning in a multinational task force of the type used intra Bosnia and in Operation Desert Storm. The JWID 97 network, called the Coalition Wide Area Network, CWAN, is the first military network that allows allied nations to participate as full and equal partners. 15. The demonstration, in effect, was a trade fair for private companies to demonstrate their goods. Defense ministries got to decide where and how to spend their money wiser, in many cases without incurring the cost of prototypes. It is a good example of doing business better with less. Technologies demonstrated included 16. Soldiers using laptop computers to drag crosshairs over maps to call in airstrikes. Soldiers carrying beepers and mobile phones rather than guns. Generals tracking movements of every unit, counting the precise number of shells fired around the globe, and inspecting real-time damage inflicted on an enemy, all with multicolored graphics. 17. Every account of this exercise emphasized the ability of systems to process data and provide information feedback via the power invested in their microprocessors, the ability to affect or defend the data processing capability of the human operators of these systems was never mentioned during the exercise. It has received only slight attention during countless exercises over the past several years. The time has come to ask why we appear to be ignoring the operators of our systems. Clearly, the information operator, exposed before a vast array of potentially immobilizing weapons, is the weak spot in any nation's military assets. There are few international agreements protecting the individual soldier, and these rely on the goodwill of the combatants. Some nations, and terrorists of every stripe, don't care about such agreements. This article has used the term data processing to demonstrate its importance to ascertaining what so-called information warfare and information operations are all about. Data processing is the action this nation and others need to protect. Information is nothing more than the output of this activity. As a result, the emphasis on information-related warfare terminology, information dominance, information carousel that has proliferated for a decade does not seem to fit the situation before us. In some cases, the battle to affect or protect data processing elements pits one mechanical system against another. In other cases, mechanical systems may be confronted by the human organism, or vice versa, since humans can usually shut down any mechanical system with the flip of a switch. In reality, the game is about protecting or affecting signals, waves, and impulses that can influence the data processing elements of systems, computers, or people. We are potentially the biggest victims of information warfare because we have neglected to protect ourselves. Our obsession with a system of systems, information, dominance, and other. Such terminology is most likely a leading cause of our neglect of the human factor in our theories of information warfare. It is time to change our terminology and our conceptual paradigm. Our terminology is confusing us and sending us in directions that deal primarily with the hardware, software, and communications components of the data processing spectrum. We need to spend more time researching how to protect the humans in our data management structures. Nothing in those structures can be sustained if our operators have been debilitated by potential adversaries or terrorists who, right now, may be designing the means to disrupt the human component of our carefully constructed notion of a system of systems. That concludes today's reading from Project Bluebeam by Serge Monast. Whether you see this document as a warning, a theory, or simply an interesting piece of modern speculation, it raises important questions about technology, media influence, belief systems, and the power of information in shaping human perception. As always, remember that here at the Library of Awakening, our purpose is simply to explore and present these writings. The ideas expressed in these books are not necessarily our personal views, and we strongly encourage everyone to continue researching, questioning, and forming their own conclusions. Knowledge grows when we examine many perspectives and investigate ideas for ourselves. If you enjoyed this reading and would like to see more rare books, forgotten writings, and thought-provoking material, please support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you don't miss future uploads from the Library of Awakening. Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge.
Welcome to the journey. May this space inspire you to ask questions, explore the unknown, and most importantly, to awaken. This is the Library of Awakening. I know some of the perspectives that I share may be as challenging for you as they once were for me. But isn't that the beauty of exploration? Every perspective, no matter how unconventional, has something valuable to contribute to it if it's shared. Knowledge is not absolute. It's a living, breathing phenomena, shaped and reshaped over time. The important thing is not always be right, but to always be curious. Explore freely, share boldly, and learn deeply. And don't rely solely on others to validate your discoveries. Stand firm in integrity, even in the face of criticism. Remember that growth always means embracing the humility to admit when we're wrong. Learning from our errors is not a setback, it's the very essence of our progress. So, welcome to the journey. May this space inspire you to ask questions, explore the unknown, and most importantly, to awaken. This is the Library of Awakening.